Howdy.
The future of talk is here. Power 102 Digital.
And good afternoon to Fareed Ali and his team of speakers today on Hard Talk, Power 102 Digital Wednesday. Good afternoon, Fareed.
Good afternoon, David. Thank you to the public for tuning in this afternoon. I want to say a special welcome to uh, our brother Junior Regrello. Today he's appearing in the capacity of manager and executive member of Skipper Steel Orchestra. It's good to see you, sir.
Hey, good to see you all as well. And it is Heritage Petroleum Skiffles.
Well, I thank you for the correction. Heritage Petroleum Skipper.
In the year of sponsorship, you need to get whatever you can get,
Mr. Regrello, accompanying me today is Dr. Richard Tanyok. He's no stranger to Panorama Steel Pan music judging.
Excellent.
Dr. Tanyok, thank you for making yourself available. Today we have in the hot seat Mr. Regrello. Mr. Regrello, tell us something about your band's preparation for the season thus far. How has that been progressing?
Well, let me begin by saying that Panorama is probably the most amazing and exciting event that anyone could get involved in. Let me go further to say that it's the only event in Carnival that speaks to every aspect of business. The preparation for Panorama starts with welding, fabrication, sourcing materials, and now we're talking hardware. You're talking fabricating, welding, you're talking skill sets there, welders coming in, fabricators coming in, painters coming in, sourcing material as the case may be, creating employment, creating business opportunities. Then you go to the next stage of the preparation and building of instruments, where the tuners come in, and you have the tuners have other guys who that augment the system, coming to do the syncing, the grooving as the case may be. And then you look at the panyard itself, the environment and the preparation of the panyard, the aesthetics. Before the players come in, then you look at the selection of music. The arranger comes in, the consultation with musicians and calypsonians to select the best song. Coming together of that, then you're looking at the committee aspect, the administrative aspect, where you have meetings, you sit to speak to your team of operators, or essentially you line up your items in a sequential order, what you're going to do. And then you call in the players by late December, early January. And that's we're talking about 1 month is only 6 weeks, sourcing or funding, whether it's a sponsorship, whether you have to go there and get it on your own, or you have an arrangement with a contractual arrangement with a particular company. There's back and forth arrangements, ensuring that there's transparency, there's accountability, you can account for what happened the year before. And these things take time. I say, so I guess at the end of 6 weeks or so, you're ready to start the ball rolling early January. Me personally, I'm a Christmas person, I'm a family person, so December, I'm into my carnival business. But from Boxing Day to New Year Day, I transform. I become a Panorama animal. And so by 2nd to January, kickoff time, and ready. In terms of skippers, after I identify, I will just walk through there with you. Where we are pretty much on stream. We have selected Olatunji's Innovators, our tune of choice, and we started it last week. But the phenomena of having to deal with the various categories do attract players, so we have to live with that. The small bands final will be on Friday, so I guess we will have the full amount of players from Sunday, Monday, going forward. So I think we are very much on track.
Tell me something. It's a very intense season. It's a very short season.
It is.
How does your executive prepare your players in terms of the mental work that comes into all these long hours of practice each and every night, successive days? It would take a toll on the players. I'm asking it purely on the basis of you will have to ensure that your players are mentally prepared to cope with the demands of the season. How do you prepare your players for that sort of
Well, I mentioned earlier on about coming together of the various stakeholders, the team. So there is a team that deals strictly with the management of the players, and we have one or two professionals who come in and look at them, and a lot of them are pretty young. So in terms of getting them to stay focused and be and not easily distracted. So what you'll see if you walk into the yard during rehearsal, you'll see a few mature persons sitting, looking, observing, and looking at those who are more inclined to be distracted or cannot stay, focused for a long while, or may tend to drift, and to keep them in check. And we have regular meetings. We have section leaders who report back to the committee on our membership on a day-to-day basis, how players function, how they operate, and all aspects of the operation will be taken into consideration. And then you identify those who you think need special help, or we have normal, regular meetings, section by section, as we go along.
The beauty with steel band music and preparing players to present a song, it's a lot of the music is learned by rote. And the issue of music education, each year, and with evolution of steel band arrangements, it has been said that when you have players that can read music and read a score, it assists in terms of their
Right.
presentation.
So
How do you all treat with that?
So when I started, I played my first panorama at age 14. I am with my 70s now. You can understand how long ago that was. We depend on the arranger to come and give us the music. If the arranger was one of those persons who were gifted and who had it in his head, we have to wait until he to go from instrument to instrument, section to section, and distribute the lines for us. Now, a lot of people, young people who are now musically literate, and they can read a score. So the arranger will know, and with technology available to us, the arranger will send the score down during the day to various sections. So you have quite a few section leaders that can read a score. So the score is sent to them, and then they distribute the music based on their convenience. So it takes a lot of pressure off the arranger, and it makes the whole structure and the system much more easy and more doable.
Do you all have a structure in place in terms of succession planning, in terms of bringing players in? Because I would imagine, like every organized orchestra, such as yourselves, you'll be thinking in terms of the years 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years down the line. Do you all have a system in place where you have like a junior band or young players that you're grooming? So
yes and no. I am very much into the succession planning because I am looking at down the road and what happens when I make my departure. So I am going through that process right now in mentoring and coaching people to do what all the things that I used to do. In terms of the junior steel band, we have two junior bands. We have a primary school band and a high school band that doubles as a high school band and also a junior skiffle. We had some problems with that in the past in terms of indiscipline or parents using the panya as a babysitter and that sort of thing. So we have to this is something that we have to revisit. But as it stands right now, we have two discipline groups that are with us, which is a primary school band, a junior band, and a high school band.
Dr. Tanyok, I want to bring you in at this point. I know that you would want to explore also the song of choice and furthermore, what this song offers. So, Dr. Tanyok.
Yes, so good afternoon, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
So I wanted to ask you, and for our listening audience, could you describe for us, for skiffle, what is the process of selecting the tune that will be arranged? Does it happen over months, weeks, or days? And
okay, so that's a great question, and it is so debatable because so when you look at the lineup of songs this year, I think we have 7 or 8 bands doing retro music. You also have about 5 bands, I think, playing one song, and then you have 2 bands playing the Olatunji song, which is World Stars and Skiffle. So when you look at the comments being made, before I answer your question directly, I want to broaden this discussion, this aspect of discussion. You look at what is happening and you look at social media, and so many comments are being made. Some people are criticizing bands for going back to the retro, and there's merit and demerit in the process. For instance, if according to the system, if an arranger can sit down in April of 2024 and select a retro tune, he has literally a year plus to sit down and plan how to structure and arrange that music and tweak it from time to time, experiment with it to get a perfect, song for the following year. As opposed to an arranger who has to wait and I'd be at the mercy of calypsonians to release songs December, early January, or whenever they see it fit. So you have that dichotomy of between both aspects, both approach, which is the ideal approach. In years gone by, when I was growing up in the early, for instance, the 60s and the 70s, the Kitchener is probably, you could have gone to Kitchener's home on a Sunday morning and get a song, before it is even released. You could contact Calypso and get music before it released. So you have something to work with. Now you have the soca artists who are not specifically arranging for the pan. They're arranging a song that could have some kind of return and benefit for them and to them. That is their focus. So they're looking at the parties, and then you have to look at feedback from the public, which song has more appeal, or which would take the pan better. So there's a dilemma there, and pressure on the arrangers and the bands, and I think that's the reason why some of them are going back to the retro songs. And the other critical aspect of it is the melody. Those songs are so melodious. I mean, how do you restrain yourself from humming those melodies when you hear them? You may not even remember the words, but those melodies are so great. I remember Kitchener's Pan in Harmony. One of the sweetest songs I've ever heard. Bee's Melody, all Kitchener songs for that matter. And it's lacking in melody. What you get is rhythm, over rhythm, and chanting here and chanting there, and hook lines here and hook lines there. But there's no consistency in the melody. So that puts arrangers under pressure, and maybe that's the reason why so many bands are going back to the retro music. I'm not against it. I don't have any problem with it, really. I just thought that there were one or two good songs this year, and we also have a responsibility to encourage those who are there right now, who are composing and making music for us. If we all go back to retro music, then it defeats the purpose. So there's a catch-22 in this. We'll support the young Calypsonians who are making an effort and go along with them. Somebody even said, if the Calypsonians go back, what will happen? If the Calypsonians start singing retro songs, where are we going to go and how are we going to go forward?
But thank you for sharing that. Just to follow up on that. So I would imagine if I was arranging for a band and I had to wait until January to work on a song, I would be in a panic and I probably wouldn't get any sleep. So if all the bands decided to go retro because they had more time to work out ideas for the arrangement, wouldn't the soca artists then say, you know what, no band playing our tune, so we need to come out earlier with this song next year?
I don't think they care.
They don't care.
Nah, I think their interest really lies in the business aspect of the party. C-Band will bring revenue for them. Making appearances at these soca fests and these parties is where they make their money. So a Calypsonian doing 3 fets or 4 fets in one night, right? Pulling in a handsome check. I think they're concerned with 3 or 4 C-Bands playing a song like Panorama, which doesn't really benefit them.
Right. But I also want to ask, I've always wondered, when an arranger, let's say you sit down and you start to arrange a tune for your band, do they map out the entire structure before they start filling in individual measures?
No, they don't. Because, it's a creative thing, and it's always sometimes a work in progress. So you have 2 types of arrangers. You have arrangers who will sit and musically structure a song together based on their knowledge and experience and the expertise that the case may be. Or you have arrangers who come to the yard and get the vibes. I don't want to call names, but quite a few arrangers will come to the yard and get the vibes in the yard. So based on so the creativity is there within, but they will come to it and how, based on their mood and the feeling and whatever they could feed off of the panyard, can get great ideas, excellent ideas. And we have produced some very phenomenal arrangers who thrive on that and have been very successful. Then you have the structured arrangers who will sit at home like the Ray Holmans and the Brad Clive Bradley and come to the yard with a plan and unfold it. They may not, because of the element of surprise, may not tell the management, oh, this is how the song like, whatever it is. They wouldn't do that because it's a competition, and you know, and you have to trust yourself, as the case may be.
Very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I wanted to move, if we could, to a discussion of the criteria for judging of Panorama. So I judged Panorama many years ago, and at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, there were marks awarded for presentation. What is your understanding of presentation?
So there's presentation, there's arrangement, there's tonal quality, there's rhythm, I think it is. Presentation would be the overall structure of the song. In terms of and I'm just speaking, it's not something I pay particularly attention to, but so the overall presentation of the song based on what the song represents, the story of the song, I guess, what it says and how you encapsulate that and present it, and the structure. Then there's the arrangement, how you arrange the song, how you reharmonize and things like that, and how you present the melody, or how you disguise it, or how you create excitement in it. And all those different things. And of course, the tonal quality is what it is, and then rhythm. I think those are the four categories.
So the reason I raised that question about presentation is that, so you describe what it means to you. Now, if I was on a panel, I wouldn't say it has anything to do with the arrangement. I would say it's...
No, the arrangement is separate, different.
Right, okay. So you see, the point is that different people might interpret that differently. So I'm leading to another thought, which is, you know, we all know that there's some subjectivity in judging a competition. Wouldn't we be able to mitigate some of that subjectivity if the criteria was spelled out in more detail? Because somebody on a panel might consider presentation to be pyrotechnics on stage, costumes, dancing. Somebody else might link that, the meaning of presentation, to the actual execution of the arrangement. You see what I mean? So
yeah.
Just wondering what your thoughts are about
that.
that.
The execution will also fall in the presentation as well. I'm not too sure about the pyrotechnics and the confetti. In my humble opinion, that brings nothing to the show. Yes, it has glitz, whatever you call it, but it's more a distraction. My personal take, but a lot of bands seem to be going for that, and sometimes to be competitive, you follow the rest. You know, it's not something that I personally favor, but the execution is also critical. As you said in the presentation, in terms of the how you execute, I'm searching for words here. The overall sound in terms of the interpretation of what you're seeing. Or that could fall into presentation. Maybe I don't know. I mean, the uniforms or the overall look. When the lights come on, the overall look, there would be some consideration for that. You know, this band is looking good, and you start with maybe a point or two for looking good. That may fall under presentation. If the pyrotechnics can enhance the music, or done in a very subtle way, that it doesn't distract from it. So let us say you're playing Fire Down. Let me just use the tune Fire Down Below. But from the bottom of the brass, you could see some sparks of fire coming from there in the middle of the song, where the music is more or less goes into something of a crescendo, and you can see that. Then it enhances the music and it relates to the story. But if in the middle of a song and you playing something and you just be a bow and you see fireworks in the air, you know what it has to do with the music. So it's all has to do, I think, with crowd response and how does that impact on the judges.
Right. Another category that I have seen on a score sheet is, and it's embedded within another category, is interpretation. Now, I want to ask your view on this.
That's not any panorama, Rubik.
It's not.
No.
Interpretation is not. Are you sure about that?
The best of my memory, yes. When last were you involved in the competition?
Many years ago, but I was speaking with somebody from Despas this morning, and they were talking about this.
I don't think that is there. I can't recall that being there.
All right.
I may be wrong, but I can't recall.
Okay. Fareed?
If I may ask, when it is your, and this is my lay perspective, Mr. Regalo, when it is you have an arranger will have a certain taste and affection for what he's doing. Arrangers often say that they prefer to work with particular pans, more tenors, more double tenors, more double seconds tend to introduce a lot more sound and power.
So you're talking about style?
Yeah, you're right. So tell us something about your orchestration and in terms of the instruments that Skiffle has. Could you walk us through what sort of
that is subjective again to the arranger's choice and style. Let us use Ray Holman, who I have good respect for. Mr. Holman is a purist, so he will, and I guess maybe use the term old school. So he is set in his ways of how things should be done. The structure is tenor, double tenors, quadraphonics now have been added to the family, double seconds, guitars, cellos, bass, as the case may be. But you have a lot of new innovations that came in that some bands have used and are using and coming that adds to the song. So it's up to the arranger based on what he wants to do and how he wants to present the song and what he, for instance, there are some arrangers, a lot of them came from the South in years gone by. The Bobby Mohammeds, the Steve Achai was the Ken Professor. All of them came from the same bowl of cloth, all three of them. And they focus on power. So the emphasis would have been on power. And at times, I remember looking at a song being arranged in my opinion by a particular arranger, and you had that synergy of 3 or 4 sections, right, playing the same thing at the same time. So what he did, he compromised the quality for power. So you get the cellos and the tenor basses and all the basses in sync. So you get, whereas another arranger like a Clyde Bradley, for instance, will have the middle pans playing another line that will enhance the background as opposed to support the background. So it depends on the style of the arranger. So there are power arrangers. When you're looking at and I'll keep referencing Ray because Ray is from not only old school, but he's one of those who have stood out and who really took the art form to another level, right? You listening to Ray music is really and I can't say Ray will not be a panorama now, but his music is a standout. It's a standout, and probably unappreciated because he's not going to compromise the quality of the music, right, to win a panorama or to shake up the crowd. So those of us who appreciate good music will listen to the how he will harmonize and the chords that he will use. And those sort of things. So as you write, each arranger will have their style, and Ray Holman will always be somebody that you'll have to look up to and admire for being adamant and for being committed, and for what he has done over the years.
I'm so glad you mentioned him because I greatly admire his work. I think he, as you say, he's a standout, and every time you hear something that he has done, it's just, in my opinion, exquisite.
Mm-hmm. The last song he did for us was a song called Carnival Celebration. And sometime around December, I happened to listen to it. And I just say, what a joy to listen to a band play a panorama piece. That didn't win. I think we came 9 to 10 to the competition. And then I always said, what are these judges listening to? And I'll ask any one of you to go on YouTube and look at Carnival Celebration by Skiffle. I think it might have been 2016, somewhere 2016, somewhere around there. I listened to that music. You heard every voice. It's like listening to a well-rehearsed choir singing. You heard everything, as opposed to a tidal wave. What Panama has become is like a tidal wave coming at you. You either break or get drowned, or surf, as the case may be. You know, but when you listen to Ray's music, it's up and down in between. You're hearing middles, you're hearing front, you're hearing support. It's just beautiful music. But it is. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody here. I'm just giving my objective opinion about how I see it from on the outside. Because I have probably used more arrangers than any Steelband in Trinidad in the past 20 years. I work with so many different arrangers, and to me, it's a great experience because it allows me, particularly as a manager, to analyze what is coming, and what I'm paying for, and what I can pay for as well, and what I should not pay for.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we have a critical role to play in this. We did a story recently where I got a copy of High Mass in this December of 1997, it was 1990, whenever it was. Very early, I got a cassette. And I said, wow, this is a great song. And I sent it to my arranger. And he didn't like it. I said, so he called back and said, you don't think this will be a Panama piece going to adjust. I said, listen to this properly, listen to it carefully, and give it some thought before you make a decision. He came back 2 weeks after the start of the song and said, I can't do this, I want to play another song. So I said, you sure? We were driving down the highway. I stopped on the highway. I pulled aside. And we had a heated argument. And then he got very, very annoyed and said, he who pays the piper calls the tune. That's what you want to do? And at that point, and if you don't feel you could give this tune justice, then you do what you want to do. And I give in to him. But that was a mistake. Because High Mass ended up winning the Panorama and became a masterpiece in our music, a standout piece as well. So the arrangers never have their own way of doing things sometimes, but there must be dialogue between arrangers and management and experienced people who understand what it is, particularly now, more so. We had another situation where, I think it was in 2017 or 18, where I had to call some arrangers at 1 o'clock in the morning and say, you cannot do that song that you're doing. It's not going anywhere. I'm listening to this song and I'm not getting anything out of it. And if you continue with the song, we are not going to make it to the final. And when I started to point out aspects of it to them, they reluctantly agreed. And we changed the song to what we were playing. And we ended up playing Hello. Skiffle ran second to Renegades that year. And if I wasn't astute enough to call my management team and say, this is not happening, and allow the arrangers to have that way, we'd have been out and would not have had that success. So management plays a critical role if once you have an understanding of what is required. You cannot be left to the arranger alone to decide, when, where, and how.
What would have influenced you in choosing this particular arranger this year? Am I correct in...
Andrew White?
Yes.
Well, so the advantages and disadvantages of having an arranger assigned to your band over the years, like the case of our All Stars, you know what All Stars was sung like.
Yeah.
You know what Festival was sung like, because they have established relationship with arrangers over the years. So there's a style that you can, I don't want to use the word predict, but you get accustomed to it, And I'm not saying it's very good actually, and it's exciting. Skiffle doesn't have a song. We do have a style because we change arrangers regularly. The last 3 guys we had, they spent 4 or 5 years with us because we had some relative success and it was working for us, but we felt it was time to move on. So sometimes you pay the price for it, as we have done in the past, because sometimes you might pull out. We had a young lady once from Port of Spain to work for. She never worked with a large band. Never did that. She had she had a junior band. But we just felt that she had potential and let's give her a chance. We tried her that year. We didn't make the finals, but we take that kind of risk. We do those things. It's how we are. I don't know if I answered your question.
Walk us through the instruments that you have. How many are you prepared to tell us? How many bass, tenor bass? How many double tenors?
Yeah, we are still working out numbers, but we usually go to preliminaries. We don't go preliminaries too heavy because our panya is surrounded by walls, so we have to be very careful. So we come in on the preliminary at about 100, which is about 30, I will say 30 tenors, 8 double tenors, 14 double seconds, 8 guitars, 10 cellos, 12 cellos, 8 tenor basses, 12 7 basses, 4 9 basses, things like that, and about 10 pieces of rhythm. 4 quadraphonics, by the way, I missed that.
Mr. Regallo, I have a question for you. I'm sure a lot of thought goes into how you arrange the pans when you get on that stage for Panorama. So who actually decides, who's going to be in the front line? Are you going to have cellos flanking?
Right. So during rehearsal in the panyard, you more or less verify your song, identify what you're looking for, and how the band is set up. There's a collaboration between the arranger, the captain, and the section leaders. That's their call. They look at that. That information comes back to the team that does the member. Coming from San Fernando is a nightmare. I don't think people in Port of Spain know what we have to go through. So we have a team for setting up in San Fernando, and a team while we're setting up, a team is heading to Port of Spain for offloading. And then there's a team for carrying the pans down the track for loading and coming back to San Fernando. So the structure, setting up of the band is done by the arranger, specifically the captain and the section leaders. They make their recommendation based on skill sets, what they want to hear, what they want to present, which instrument is going to carry the melody, whatever it is. That's done based up to that team.
Right. So is this setup ever changed from one?
It can change based on how you progress. A lot will happen on the preliminary night. You will, when you get a feedback from the judges, they will critique you and say this is what they think, this is what they like to hear, this is where they think you went wrong, and then from there you take it from there. You could do very little until you get past that first round.
Right.
And based on where you place the competition, if you, let's say, 15 bands going in the semifinals, the case may be, and you're running 9 to 10th or somewhere around there, or 12th, you know that you have some work to do, then you may have to change your configuration, change your setup. Maybe they won't hear in the middles, as the case, maybe the basses were overpowering, and those two you have to make some adjustment as you go along.
Now, I've always wanted to ask an arranger this question. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever heard an arrangement for Panorama where the meter changes.
The metronome thing aspect?
No, I don't mean the metronome. We're not talking about tempo. I'm talking about meter. So let's say we're in 4/4, and then it moves to 6/8, and then it goes to 9/8, and then back to 4/4.
Well, is it because it's controlled by that steady rhythm from the percussion area? Is that because of that?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. We're not talking about
the rhythm.
I'm talking. Well, we are talking about rhythm because rhythm is related to meter.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking why.
Okay, I'm with you. That's an interesting question, and I never looked at it as well, and maybe I could investigate that as you raise it.
Because, and this is part of a broader topic of, development. So what we tend to hear a lot is melodic development.
Mm-hmm.
We hear harmonic development.
Mm-hmm.
We hear variation in texture, that is how many strands are being played at one particular point and how it varies. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the parameter of meter, we don't hear a lot of variation in meter. It starts 4/4 and the whole piece is in 4/4. In fact, I've never heard I have never heard, let's say, wouldn't it be exciting to have something go into triple time in the middle?
If Panorama is so rigid in its approach, it may be some region may consider that risky, because because you're thinking out of the box, and you may have to compromise, and will the judges understand and accept it? And that may be a dilemma for the arranger.
But for
And
15 seconds, a change of meter, I would say that is innovative.
yeah, it depends.
But I understand what
You
you're
may
saying.
say that, but you have a panel
Right.
of judges, because I know who
Okay, right.
set in their ways, that type of thing.
Right.
And they have had arrangers in the past who would have take the risk. Ray Hulmer, again, is another example. When he went on his own with his original music at the time, it was out of the ordinary, and the people who criticized him for that until they learned to understand or came to terms with the decision and why it was done. So we are very set in our ways. It may require some flexibility in the structure, where Pancho Vega can say, let us know that there is a category or area for creativity and for newness, where arrangers can take the risk without being penalized for doing it. Maybe that could help.
Right. Absolutely. Good point.
Because as we stand right now, the panorama has not evolved within the past. In fact, it may have lost its essence over the years. In your quest to win, you look at a era of the 60s, and when arrangers were doing music in five different keys. What that would have done to us as young players like them, it gave us so much more experience and appreciation for music and good music, as opposed to what we are being, the diet that we have now. I mean, I wouldn't say it's gimmick. I would say it's a different. It's like the calypso music right now. It has changed so much that we like it. But there was a time when you had so much music to play. When a panorama piece was 10 minutes, and you playing 5 keys in 10 minutes. So when the key changes, the chord structure has to change. The learning aspect was so demanding of you. When you had bass lines changing, you say you're a bass man, and the 5 keys on your bass line change in 2 or 3 keys. It's more work for you. So what you find now is that it's much more simple. There's a lot of intricacies in the front line where the work is, and some of the middles, but it has lost its essence and sometimes its sweetness. That has been compromised. There are those of us, and I'm saying us here in a very general way, who felt that we have lost the folk in our music, and it has become too structured. And where the university and the academia has taken control and formulate and more or less redesign the music for us, and restructured it for us, and tell us how it should be played, as opposed to the soul of the people that was expressed through panorama. And to me, there's a two-edged sword, because it has destroyed that uniqueness in us, that soul that we have, also, and where that is compromised, because this is how it is supposed to be done. This is the proper way. This is not how it's supposed to be. You're doing it wrong. So the music of the 50s and the 60s and 70s, it was so sweet and so infectious, as opposed to so structured and so correct.
That's a very interesting point.
So if we had realized that Bugsy at age 12 was so gifted and sent him to university, they would have transformed him, and maybe, I dare say, destroyed him.
I have a curiosity. When I speak with some of the arrangers in Port of Spain, and you talk among pan people, it's often said that there's a particular band in the north that paces themselves in terms of they don't do too much in the preliminaries. They save and hold something back for the semi-final and hold something back for the final. What is your view in terms of your band? Do you all share that sort of philosophy? You go all out at the prelims and you maintain that
I don't think I don't think any man is so brave to do that in this competitive field of music right now. There was a particular arranger who is no longer with us, who would have taken that chance and did it because there was just so much respect for him and his credibility that he got away with it. There may be a feeling that strategy continues, maybe or maybe not, but I don't think anyone is so brave as to do that. No, you need to hear. Okay, so there's some bands that they say must make the finals for so that's what they do. So you have a 10 minutes tune to play, they come down with 6 minutes and they get through. I don't think that is so right. Well, there's no evidence to prove that, but that would have occurred in years gone by. I wouldn't do that because you need to get an assessment very early of where you are and what your position is. And I'm not. Skiffle is one of the bands that are in the middle of the pack. Yeah, we not one of those fringe bands who who's short to be inside of there. So we have to work very, very hard. And then we coming from San Fernando's Woods.
You're saying coming from San Fernando's Woods. Do you think that there's a preference to bands in the north, or the bands in the north tend to get more elbow room, or they get more latitude than if you're coming out?
No, it's more profound than that. It is the geography aspect. It is the dichotomy of and lack of resources for the South bands. It is the struggle that we have to go through. There's the lack of appreciation and support by San Fernando people for San Fernando bands. There are more people in San Fernando that support Desperados and All Stars in Port of Spain than San Fernando bands. I mean, I'm not blaming them for doing it, but all those things add to the disadvantage that we experience. And the success, the lack of corporate support for bands. When you have a band like Skiffle getting $400,000 from a major corporate body, and you competing against bands that dealing with 7-8 digits, where are you? There are some bands, they're so resourceful that they're literally destroying the system because you're paying players phenomenal figures to play for them. Right? Phenomenal figures. You'll be amazed if I tell you what kind of figures of bands that some bands who are resourceful are paying because they have corporate bodies supporting them. So there's a whole gap between those of us from San Fernando who literally struggling with pittance. And when you get $400,000 and 50% of that goes into transport, the All Stars push the pans around the corner and then the Savannah. When he gets pushed the pans up the road and then the Savannah. We have to do 12 trucks and 6 maxi taxis for semi-final and final. And that's not factored in the system. It's frustration.
I'm so glad you raised this this topic of financial support. And you touched on this notion of nowadays there are a handful of players, maybe more than a handful, who are playing with several bands. And they're being paid to play. So that puts a band that doesn't have large resources at a disadvantage, or you have to take the players when they can come to the panyard. What is your opinion? I mean, in some ways, we're developing this industry of the professional pianist. You're being paid to play. But on the other hand, in a situation like a Panorama, the bands who have a lot of money are going to get their pick of players. What's your opinion about it?
Well, you have the loyalists and you have success. Right now, let's use Renegades, who really they are raising the bar, and you have to give them credit for that. And their success, people will gravitate because people like to be with a successful band. So let us give Renegades hats off to Renegades. So they will not have that challenge. We have the other successful bands again who are also inside of there. The All Stars, the Desperados, Phase 2, Exodus, those bands, right? People will definitely go there because of the resourcefulness, they can lay out a structure, lay out an infrastructure, lay out aesthetics that can make the facility accessible and people can gravitate to it. All those are contributing factors. That brings us right back to San Fernando bands. We don't have that. How could a sponsor give me $400,000 to go to for the year, not for Panama, for the year? And that happened 2-3 years in a row. We're not much better where we are right now. So you have to now dip into your pocket, as the case may be, or use your resources to get things going on. My wife want to kill me at times. How could you do that? But those of us who bitten and we can't help it, we just committed to this. It has to happen one way or the other. And maybe Pan Tobago may have to look at that in terms of how we have to have a super category for bands that based on your resources and your budget. And if you have $2 million to play with, and literally to play with, and you fight it, and I have 400,000, I cannot play with you. I cannot play against you because you protected all over, and I come in literally naked against you. I don't even have a glove to fight you. So we maybe they have to address those issues, right? It is very much like the Premiership football in England. There was a time when San Fernando was San Fernando, so we are Rangers from San Fernando, because that's what it was. But if you look at the coaches in England right now, there was a time in the 50s and the 40s when all the coaches in England were British. The Busbys and those people and them who created excellent teams, Manchester United, whatever it is, right? They were English. No, it's Brazilian and other European coaches who are controlling the top teams in England. And the players are also from you. If you get 5 British players in a team, you get plenty. If you look at Manchester City, right? It's Europeans and people from Latin America and Brazil all over the world playing there. And that's what the Pan has become. You look at some bands and you don't have players. I saw a band from Salvan a couple of years ago, and 90% of the band came from Port of Spain because they were resourceful and they could afford to hire the players. So those are areas that we need to probably address. And it is basically an individual thing. Bands have to market themselves. They have to sell themselves. They have to do whatever necessary to succeed and to survive.
How do you feel about the prize money and the prize that is at stake? Are you of the view that it is commensurate with the effort that the bands have to put in? Clearly,
so in 2006, the first prize I think was $750,000. 2006, and we were having Panorama. They had close to Savannah, and I saw an opportunity to bring Panorama to San Fernando. I approached Pan Tobago and asked them if we could have Panorama at Skinner Park. 2006, 2007, 2006 or 7, not was it. Anyway, Pan Tobago said, well, in the absence of the Savannah, Skinner Park may not be a good option because of the distance and bands will not come down there. And my response to them was, for $1 million, they will come. That was my response. Mm-hmm. I went back to Mr. Manning at the time and I said, Chief, we need to get Panorama in Skinner Park, and I have proposed that we raise the price money to $1 million. And he said, will Pan Tobago accept it? I said, not Pan Tobago, the bands will accept it. He said, well, try, and I will support you. And that's how your prize money was raised to $1 million. That was 2006 or 2007. We are now 2023. We're in 2023, and it's still that. Look at inflation and how things are going. How could that be? And who's doing that? Who's advocating that prize money go up? So if we didn't make that move and bring Pan to San Fernando, it's not Pan Tobago who raised it, It's we did it in San Fernando. It's I went to them and get it done.
Is there prize money for second, third place?
Yeah, it runs. It goes down from 1 million to 800 or whatever it is, 750, and goes right down to 3 something.
So how many places actually get prize money?
Everybody gets something.
Everybody in the finals gets something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The last band got about 350, somewhere around there.
It is my understanding that the winning band has to give 10% of their winnings to all the
bands, every band.
So that applies to whatever prize money you derive and whatever
Whatever you get. If you come last, 10% goes to Pan Trinbago. And you have to understand why Pan Trinbago structured these categories.
Well, it speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. No, you're breaking it down pretty well.
Yep.
Mr. Regalo, we want to thank you for making yourself available to us. You're always very forthright and all your years of experience in this business.
At my age, I have nothing to lose. I serve in Pan Trinbago with two. I serve under Patrick Arnold. I serve under Mr. Serrat. So I have some experience in Pan Trinbago. Actually, the first panorama that Pan Trinbago ran in 1997. I was the chairman of the panorama event. I was responsible for putting panorama run by Pan Trinbago. For the first time under the past the Pandey administration, they said that they didn't know about carnival, and they asked all interest groups to deal with carnival. So Tuco was dealing with the calypso, the NCBA did the mass, and we were supposed to run panorama, and I was the chairman of the panorama organizer event committee. So I knew what I have it down pack.
Thank you for making yourself available. We look forward to another discussion on another occasion, and we wish Skiffle, well, let me put it this way: Heritage Petroleum Skiffle,
Absolutely,
the very best of everything.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, I keep saying that I look forward to a South band winning a panorama again. I believe, if I'm correct, and you can correct me, the last band to win from South would have been Hatters.
1975.
Yeah.
And before that was 1967. And before that was 1965.
Wow.
So it's long overdue. It's long overdue. Hopefully we see something coming out of this year's results.
No comment.
Thanks for having us.
Most
Very
welcome.
comments.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your evening, Mr. Regalo.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jackson, good afternoon. If you could turn on your volume. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. We're hearing you loud and clearly. Thank you so much for making yourself available. For the listening public, we have Mr. Ben Jackson. He's the drill master for Supernova Steel Orchestra. So Mr. Jackson is joining us this afternoon just to walk us through and take us through the journey of the preparation of the music for Supernovas at this time. Tell us something. How is the preparation for Supernovas going? Mr. Tanyok and ourselves are here. We want to put you in the hot seat this afternoon and to keep the heat turned up and getting even hotter. So if it is you want to hold back on some answers, you're free to tell us that you don't want to reveal too much. But tell us how the preparations are going. I know that the season is a short season, and every season has its challenges. Where are you all now in terms of your song?
Okay, you need to unmute your microphone. All right, your microphone is still muted. Let me see if I can do it from here.
Mr. Jackson, you may need to...
Right.
You're back here. You're back here with us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Right.
So you heard the question, right?
President, good evening again to all the listeners of Power. Preparation for Panorama 2024 Supernovas has music, as far as music has started. Last Tuesday on the 2nd for preparation. Our tune of choice for 2020.
We are losing your audio in and out.
Mr. Jackson, if you're hearing us, we're struggling a bit in terms of your connection. I don't know if you're relying on Wi-Fi or your data, but maybe Wi-Fi might help. If not, we may have to play some.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Okay, we hear you now, though.
Yeah. But Dr. Tanyok, we answer the listening public. Mr. Ben Jackson is the drill master for Supernova Steel Orchestra. So he would be, barring the arranger, Mr. Amrit Samaru, he may be very much in a position to interpret the music for their song of choice, that being Wet Me Down by Johnny King. So, Mr. Jackson, I know that you're adjusting your your set there, and if it is you
hear me better now?
Yes,
wonderful.
you're in your microphone.
You're right
Nice.
there. Stereo song we get it. Nice. So we were chatting. You were telling us about how your preparations were unfolding.
Well, yeah. So the band we started rehearsal last Tuesday, as I mentioned before. Music is currently going down. We not at full complement as yet, but we are like 85% there, and hoping for the best.
Tell us about your choice. You know, some of the bands in the last few years, and even with you know, the top band last year, they went for if we may put it so far to say a retro song, an old song. They're taking music out of the past. Is it that? What is your reasoning in terms of your tune of choice, "Wet Me Down" by Johnny King? What is the competitive edge that you're seeing in that song, and what does it give you in terms of being able to present the music that you all are presenting?
I wouldn't say a competitive edge, you know. To each his own when it comes to picking their song. Everybody think that their song or whatever they choose to do have a competitive edge. I personally am an advocate for composition by panmen. Right? This is my preference. This is my preference. So I was listening to the earlier guests before, and you know, it's a fact waiting for Caleb Sonan to drop a song in January or wherever for us to decide what we want to play. But I think Dr. Ray Holman fought for something for us back in the 60s or early 70s when he composed the first song composed by a steel band arranger. And I think we are giving up on that too quick. And what we have in now, when we have a lot more trained pan people who from out of universities and whatnot, we are not seeing that side of them as composers, and so it put us in our box. So that is my first preference. I am privileged to work with Amrit Samaru, who is also one of the young composers of steel band music that we have. Last year, 2023 Panorama, we did our own composition, Jubilation. The band placed 10th at the finals. We felt, we know that we had an excellent composition. We had a good arrangement, but for some reason, it wasn't being heard. And this year, you know, Amrit, he called me one day and he said, listen, I know you not for this, but that's why I say, hear me. Our state side is a very active state side. So when we play out and stuff, we always have the crowd moving, and you know, people like to hear us. And we play a lot of retro music on our state side. And we felt that is where we always have the crowd. Wet Me Down is one of the songs we also play. And we always see the crowd in a frenzy when we do it. So, you know, we say, okay, let me just do it. And I said, well, I had to support it. We made the effort. Last year we did our own song. It didn't work for us. We're not giving up on it, but this year we just jump into it and we didn't wait and we pick our own song.
I actually think it's an excellent choice. I love the selection, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it. So, Mr. Amrit Samaru is your arranger. So, tell me a little bit about the process of putting together the arrangement. How long before the rehearsals begin is he working on that arrangement?
Amrit, sometimes I try to get him to come to the panel to put our music on spot, which he will do. And sometimes when he reach home from work, he will start to do music. And because of some of our players, the caliber of our players, they could read music. So it is easy for him. He does write some on afternoon. So like all now I know he busy writing, and then he will forward it to the players, and they will come to the panel and start to work on what he will do. At some point in time, he will come home and then he will come to the panel and he will do something at the panel, depending on how the vibes moving at the time. So his preparation, and then of course, well, you know, he also arranged for a small band. So he have his normal day-to-day to do, and when he had the opportunity, he work on it.
Right. So just to clarify, so when Amrit sends music to the section lead and say, okay, is it the entire score, the entire arrangement for that part, or is it like, okay, this is just the B section, you'll get the next section tomorrow?
No, he just he do a part. So like he will score the verse, he send the verse, he score if we do any variation, or he might do half of the variation, depending on how much he was able to finish at the day. But wherever it is, he send it and the players they'll be able to do it. There.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even putting it together, he might make an adjustment from the score. So
right. And you know, I always wondered when a band is preparing for Panorama, well, obviously the front line, the tenors and double seconds will have a lot more notes to play than the bass band. So do you ever have rehearsals where it's just this section of the band tonight? Or is everybody supposed to be there all the time?
everybody is there all the time.
So the bass players are often not playing.
Oh,
if
no.
if you're rehearsing at 10 or 9.
They're always playing, because what will happen, the rehearsal is divided into two sections. So the sections will have their own individual rehearsal.
I see.
And then at some point in time, we put the band together to put everything together. So the band rehearsal will end up a little shorter because the sections will do enough
Right.
as an individual, as sections. So when they come together, it's much easier because of how they get the music. So when they get the music, they pull the sections away. And if they set up now at the panel, all the basses are together, all the middles together, all the tenors together. So they separate themselves and they do what they have to do, and then they come back to them together and play it together.
Right. Thanks for sharing that.
You know, Panorama is a competition. One may even go so far, if you want to be dramatic, to say it's a war. When it is you're preparing a band and you're preparing players for war, you have to get everybody in a certain frame of mind and thinking. You as a drill master and Amrit as an arranger, you all would have a chemistry. Amrit, I'm sure, would know that he can work with you and you can work with him. And based on that marriage that you all develop, you can feed on each other's energy. How do you transfuse that or infuse that into the players to keep the players in calibrated in terms of what you want and what Amrit wants? Because if you have players that are not in sync with what you and the arranger wants to do, you may find yourself struggling. What is your formula at Supernovas to ensure that everyone is in sync with each other, that you're motivated and keeping the players motivated and working towards, the proposed goal?
Our state side, they have that responsibility. They do a good job at that. Now, this will be my third Panorama working with the band. Before Panorama, I used to do like classical music for them when they have concerts and whatnot. So one of the things I had to do is to get the stateside members to understand their duty as stateside members. So they have a clear understanding of what I will expect, what Amrit will expect, and how we work. So what they will do now in their section practice is prepare the band for what is to come. When Ben come, don't make Ben have to talk about this. This is what we need to do. This is how we do this. So the stateside members, our core members, they are very good at doing that. So it make my job that easier. It also make, well, as I mentioned, that because they could read and stuff, it make Amrit's job that easier. Also, he'll just send music and we just have to put it together.
What percentage of players would you say can read music?
On our state side, we have almost 40 people. I think maybe about over 75% of them, and the rest of them they want to start, they are starting to learn.
Wow, that's terrific. That's great.
So yeah, everybody, and the ones who can't do it, you will always see them trying to. They all want to see what the score look like. So the score sometimes may come in the section leaders chat, and they will try to see what it look like and they break it down. So what will happen? The section leaders, they will get the score, and you will even hear them. They compete against, like, the tenor section leader could correct the section in any double tenor or any guitars, or vice versa, because they're following the score. No, that's how they're playing something wrong there, and because they have the score, so they could do what's necessary.
Right.
I had the benefit of hearing you all perform at the World Steel Band Day at Woodford Square in August, and also another performance at Phase 2 Spaniard. So I'm well in tune with how well you all, how well the stage side carries the band, and your off-season work. Tell us something. When it is clearly, 75% of your band membership being able to read music,
At the stage side.
Yeah, that is a tremendous amount of guns that you have at your disposal there. Walk us through your instruments. If you're going to war and you have a general taking you there, the generals being yourself and Amrit Samaru, you have to make sure that the guns and your artillery could carry what your ambitions are. What sort of what's the breakdown of your bass, tenor bass, double tenors, double seconds, quadraphonics? What is your vision in terms of the music and your instruments to complement that music?
Well, sometimes it may be like what we want, but we don't always get what we want. So we have to work with what we have. So, like, okay, so as an example, the arranger might be working with a certain figure in his head, and then there are times they didn't have that figure, you might have half, so you had to make adjustment. But our composition, well, we have basically all tenors, double second, quads, 3 and 4 cellos, guitars, 7 and 9 basses. So that is what we have. In some cases, and some bands I worked with before, because of the quality of their instrument, they may have to go over a certain amount because the quality is not at the best. Our people who sharpen our weapons are very pleased with what they do. That's one Mapo and Gussie, right? They are the people who are in charge of making sure that we song the way we should be singing at the competition. So with our instruments and even to balance, then it comes down to the players also. Last year and even this year we have a lot of young players, a lot of maybe first timers, some of them in the second year of the panorama, which is all well and good for us because I love the challenge of working with the youth, and because of our junior band and whatnot, we have a lot of young players. So plenty females, small hands, they have maybe a little lighter than the others. So instead of maybe sometimes you might want to use 25, tell them how to use 30 because the hands might be a little lighter. Sometimes you could be good with 20 tenor players, depending on the players you have at the time. So the complement at the band again is based on if we have it available, we know maybe 20 bases, 16 in the middle, something like that, six quads, 25 to 30 tenors, just to see. But once if we can reach there, and the pyramid has a strengthening section from time to time. And with how the way our Amrit arrange, he used all the sections in the sense that everybody is featured at some point in time in the arrangement.
Dr.
Mis-
Samuel.
Mr. Jackson, I'd like to pose a question that I posed to our earlier guest, and this has to do with the criteria for judging the panorama. And I believe there is a category which broadly says presentation. There are marks for present. What, in your opinion, does presentation cover?
There's not a presentation category, because I heard it earlier, but there is not. I'm looking at a score sheet right now.
Oh, you have a
that was WhatsApp to me.
Maybe we should put it on screen.
Well, actually, I wouldn't want to put it on screen because it's actually a written score sheet of
I
the band I'm competing with.
It have comments.
If you guys can allow me here, for the criteria for judging panorama, we have arrangement 40 points,
General
performance 40 points, tune 10, and rhythm
10. Yeah.
Can you say the second category again?
Performance.
General performance.
Yes.
There is no presentation. And if you break down in those categories, like on the arrangement, you have introduction, harmonization and reharmonization, melodic development, and motivic development. Right? Under general performance, it's interpretation, dynamics, and balance. And then you have tone, and you have rhythm.
Okay, so if we could hone in on this general performance category. So it's 40 marks for general performance, and under that, interpretation. What else?
Dynamics and balance.
And balance. Okay, so I'd like to talk about this in more detail. So if we put dynamics and we are awarding marks for dynamics, wouldn't the arranger then say, we have to do more crescendo diminuendo because there are points for dynamics? What if the song does not lend itself to drastic variation in dynamics? It's just a question I'm posing.
Well, it's not that the song don't lend itself to it, it's the arrangement. It's the arrangement you do. Because if you play Mirror as a Lamb, you can play that loud. You might find out that it might be so, but you could play loud, you could play crescendo, and it depends on the arrangement.
But the point is, an arranger might just feel obligated. We have to do dynamic changes because there are points awarded for this.
Well, I hear you, but again, I don't know how many people do it. How many people do dynamics?
I heard it. I heard it last year and the year before. Yeah. Now I want to talk to, again, we're still in this general performance category. Interpretation. So there's just a lot of marks in this category of interpretation, dynamics, and balance. Everybody understands what balance means. Interpretation, let's talk about that, because in my view, interpretation is the arrangement. Once you put down those notes, that is the interpretation of the piece. Unless they mean execution, how is it played? How well is it performed? What's your opinion about interpretation?
Well, under interpretation, the sub is that the ability for the arranger to stay the composition, intention, and the skill of the steel orchestra in executing the arrangement and all the articulation therein with precision.
Okay, so thank you for reading that, and I wish I had a sheet that I could look at. So under interpretation, they're also tying in arrangement, even though arrangement is a separate category with its own marks.
Yeah, well, the arranger, yeah.
So wouldn't it be clearer that the actual arrangement or marks are not awarded under interpretation for arrangement? I think the other things you mentioned, the other subheadings, make sense. Execution. Why not say execution then? The execution skill of the band.
Well, you see, for me, right? For me, remember, I am trying to win points from the judges. So
Right.
that question, I think, will be for the judges or the people who put the criteria together.
Well,
A couple months ago, we had a UTT did a wonderful job of having a judges symposium, and some of some questions came up, and in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think one of the problems with the score sheet that we have, the score sheet is not really a big problem, but I think the interpretation of the score sheet by individual is the problem. Because I
right.
think there are times they will sit down and they have 5 judges interpreting the same document differently.
And this is the point. And this is why I raise this issue, because what one person will think that means may not be the same as what and your wording might, right? So because general performance, I'm glad there's subcategories, but if the title of the category is general performance, I would think that they're looking at the overall thing. And I think in order to make this less subjective, there needs to be more detail, specific detail. Ensemble, was the band together? This many points. Arrangement only, and all the things that go in arrangement, harmonic, developed, motivic, this many points. You know, dynamics, this many points. Everything very specific so we could mitigate as much as possible subjectivity in the judging. What are your thoughts?
The song good, you know. It's song good, but again, outer structure is chaos, and the people who is tasked with judging have to all sit down and understand and come to that one common understanding and goal. Just as how you put it there, I have no problem with it. But again, it's not for me alone to understand, because we may do music with this in mind. Because, like, for example, we will do reharmonization, we'll develop the melody, we'll do dynamics, and all these, make sure the band balance, make sure you can hear the cellos, and do all these different things. And we know we have good sounding instrument. The rhythm section was tight, but then again, 7 for tone, right? You're getting 7 for rhythm. You're getting 33 for arrangement, and 33 for general performance. So again, it's understanding, everybody understanding, and that one comment. And if the judges too will sit down and say, this is what we expect, and this is what we look at, then you have a better idea. I always loved the festival. It was one of the easiest competition to listen to judges, because most of the time all the time they are very accurate in what they say. That I don't know if it's maybe because they judge you from listening to a score, from reading on a score, but even when we're in the calypso category, they used to give you some comments for you to work with, and that is one of the things. So I don't think it's where or how, as you designed it just now. I think it's for everybody to understand this is actually what it means.
Right.
Because when you get general performance, a lot of people say general performers jumping up on the stage.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Right? So,
sorry, when you say music festival, you're talking about the Trinidad and Tobago Music Festival, or you're talking about the Pan Festival that we used to have?
Steel Band Festival.
Steel Band Festival. So, and you mentioned that you may be judges who are working from a score. Why is it then that the Panorama judges are not given a score? Wouldn't that be helpful?
Wow.
So if I'm looking at a score, for example, let's say I'm on a panel judging, and I'm looking at this score, right? I can see even before you start to play the creativity in the arrangement, because as one of our guests said last week, in the absence of a score, we are hearing it at the preliminaries for the first time, and it's going by fast, and there are multiple strands of music going on. We can't possibly, if we're honest with ourselves, we cannot possibly digest everything that's happening in it until we've heard it a number of times. But
I was told by a judge different.
Okay.
I was told by a judge in the same podium, the same. But my argument, in this whole thing, I wouldn't support. It's a good idea, but I wouldn't support the score sheet, the Panorama song, for the judges of Panorama. It's a more freer competition, the imagination of these geniuses that we have trying to create an arrangement, a development of somebody else's composition. What I will say though is that because everything you do will come from the original composition. How do arrangers come up with what they put in the arrangement? It's not just based on the chord structure of the song. It's not just based on the melody of the song. It's not just based on the lyrical content of the song. It's not just based on the name of the song. It's based on everything that the song is comprised on. Because you could listen to an arrangement and you could say, like, you could go back to some arrangement by, okay, there you go, Jet Samaru, Mystery Band. In the introduction, you're actually hearing all the tin pan and stuff coming along the river with the shaking and the different things. So you could tell what that was the lyrical content of the song. The name of the song was Mystery Band. What is the Mystery Band? The Mystery Band is the band when rain fall in the river, flood, all the rubbish that coming down in the dry river, that is the Mystery Band. So because of the lyrical content of the song to explain to Jit, that is the Mystery Band, Jit was able to arrange the song, and in the intro, you actually hear the river coming down and all the knocking and everything with the water flowing. So I said that judges need to listen to the people's composition before they come to the Savannah, to have a clearer understanding of what might be happening. Because you hear in the original recording of the song, passing over your head once or twice while they're finishing writing up the score for the band before, and you just hear that come just for the first time, you cannot tell me much about melody development and reharmonization because you don't know the song that I played. And this is why the original compositions by the Boogsies and the Amrit and the Sion and the Kareem Brown, all these fellows who used to compose before, the Mark Luke one, was getting the treatment it was getting at the Panorama because they don't know the compositions.
Very good point. And if you play an original composition, then nobody could say your interpretation wasn't good because it's your own composition. So in a way, it's a good strategy, I think.
Yeah. Well, you mean we need to stop referring to musicians in the steel band world as pan men. We are musicians. We are musicians. So we could write, we could compose, we could score, we could play any type of music or the instrument. And this is my issue of why we in our Panorama. For me, one band playing the same, 5 band playing the same song in Panorama is not growth. That just show a lack of resources musically for us, right? However, we have the people who could do the compositions. But because of the competition aspect of it, because of now it's not being as successful as it used to be in the past, people are not doing it anymore because all of a sudden I thought the score sheet had a mark for popular song. Because they're saying you had to play a popular song in order for people to take you on the Panorama. But I beg to differ because there is nothing on the score sheet that gives me points for playing a popular song.
And thank you for sharing these thoughts.
When we look at the band's performances, are you one of those drill masters who try to bring at the preliminary level a particular tone, a particular delivery, and hold something back for the semi-final and the final, or the band tends to, and I'm asking you purely in the context of your band Supernovas, can we expect that you're going all out in the prelims and then maintain that consistency through to the final?
Well, you never go all out, and when I say that because you always improve as you go along.
Yeah.
But you're not going halfway. So at the preliminary level, you want to give a good performance, but you can only give the performance as good as you prepare for at that time.
Right.
So we have a short time. Our performance is on the 22nd of January.
Right.
We may finish the song before, the night before, a week before. It depends on how long before you finish the song. Now, after the preliminaries, you will already have work done, a lot of work done. So you will work on cleaning up that and get that properly, get that even better than preliminary for the semifinals. And then the problem for me now is the 2 weeks between the semifinals and the finals. You have enough time to spoil the song, to get it better, or for players to even forget. Because that 2 week span between semifinals and finals, when back then it was a one night difference between semifinals and finals. Right? So yes, you don't literally hold back, and even with the arranger, he will always find ways to improve on what he did. And then based on the judges' comments also, you will also look at the judges' comments and make some adjustment. So all that is improving.
You mentioned the judges' comments. When we look at the bands having to work with judges' comments, let us say after the prelims and you're working towards the semi-final, do you as drill master feel a certain amount of weight on your shoulder in terms of having to execute changes or execute the suggestions of the judges? Because there was one arranger who said in previous years that what you hear on a Panorama final night is basically what the judges want to hear, not necessarily what the band would have started off with in terms of what they want to do. So if you want to win, you have to play to the judges as opposed to holding on to your vision for the music. Do you feel impacted by something like that? What are your views in terms of?
It depends on what the judges will speak about in their comments, right? So, for example, they may not speak much about the arrangement. They may ask about they're not hearing a section. Some may say this section playing too loud. They couldn't hear the middle pans playing the melody. So again, there's a balance issue. So you work on that in the rehearsal. That could simply means that maybe they didn't have the right amount of cellos. Maybe the setup of the band was not correct at the time. So we tend to always be doing things a little different. Like we may play set up the band one way at the Panyard, we set them different when we reach at the Savannah, right? Just to see that because the Savannah may be much more open than our Panyard. So we'll always try to adjust. The arranger, don't think he will do much based on what the judges are saying where the arrangement is concerned. We'll just try to strengthen our part. At that time, all the lines was tested at the preliminaries. We look at not just the response of the judges, but even your supporters and the crowd that come to hear you. We also look at their response also and say, right, this part was a hit. This part, let me move this and do something different and see how it's going from there.
Dr. Tayo.
So I was going to ask that same question that Fareed asked about changes between prelim semis and semis to finals. Do you think the 2 week period between semis and finals is too much?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is it possible that the band will peak too soon before the finals?
Well, they could have that. But there are bands who maintain from preliminary straight to finals. But I think I honestly think maybe old school because we came from that era. Panorama was completed in 2 weeks, right? The gap between preliminaries and semis is much closer than sometimes we might get results for semifinals Wednesday or Thursday and Sunday semis. And then you have 2 weeks in between now before you reach the finals on Carnival Sunday. So I honestly think the gap is too much. Then sometimes too, like even when we have a very young band, to try to keep them that first week in the middle they'll be sometimes lost. You know, that first week into the practice will be lost. If we might catch back by that week coming to Carnival, that Carnival week, maybe by the Monday or Tuesday. Then there might have other things happening for the band to go and play for certain things and are different. But I think if the competition is kept a little tighter, then you'll be able to separate people at a different, because I know of bands who used to change the whole Panorama song that night before finals after getting judged Thursday night, come second by 1 point, and then like they change the whole song Friday night, and then in Savannah, like it's the same song Saturday night. That's where the practice used to be going until 4 o'clock in the morning.
And so, if you could share with us, what was the thinking behind making that time span between the semis and the finals much wider?
Or I don't know. That is a Pension Bigo or the organization. That is their thing. That is their, that I can't say. I don't know if it's. I think that started when they started to categorize Panorama too. So I don't know if there's just spread it out so that the other categories will get to play in between. But now under this new administration, well, not new anymore because they're there some good years, 4 or 5 years already. They're doing most of the categories before the large band. So like Friday, the small band finals, the single band finals finish last December. So the medium and the large will start now. Now, as of last year, 2020, the medium band moved from the large band finals move. It did that one, 2009, they did it once. But now we could see that it permanently moved now, where the medium band will go now the weekend before the large band, and the medium band will go in Tobago. So that maybe that could be the reason. Then maybe that could be the main reason, but so the large band will go last. But I just still find it that the gap is too much.
Does Pension Bigo consult with the bands when these decisions are made?
I will want to say yes. I am not a representative of a steel band. Each steel band allowed to send 2 representatives to Pension Bigo meeting. So I will say they do. They come with the ideas. I don't know if they vote on it or if Pension Bigo put on the ideas, but I will say yes.
Right. As a drill master, what has been some of the challenges that drill masters face when you're dealing with in my understanding, and you can correct me, you have an arranger who arranges the music. Your job is basically to get that arranger's sound out or to present what he has in his mind. How do you as a drill master get into the head and get into the spirit of what the arranger is doing? How does that work?
Well, for me, the first thing, if I have to work with the arranger have to want me to work with them. And we have to be at that level. So a band cannot call me to drill the band without consulting with the arranger, because I need to be at one with the arranger, right? My job is to get the players to execute. In my level of drilling for years, I will also have a little influence on the arrangers. I could share ideas with the arrangers also, and they don't have to take all the advice. We bounce things off of each other to get it correct. So sometimes we had the band in the middle and we working it out. We want to make sure we get it correct. So I have to make sure that what he want to hear is coming from the band. I have to get the band to do this. They will also allow me to work, especially with, to get them to the expression, the interpretation, to play how I want them to play. So now I will most of the time do the dynamics, and so once me and the arranger at that level, then it also involves the section leaders, because the section leaders who will have to take what the arranger passed to me, I pass it to them, they pass it to the players in their section, and then I put it together. One of the challenges I will this have, but I don't have it at Supernovas, is having a band to rehearse with. A lot of people have this, a lot of band leaders have this thing that they hire a drill master, so he could come in the panyard with 40 players every night and practice. But you play with 120 on stage. You will never get it done the right way. The arranger could come in the panyard every night and put on music with one person in each section and get the whole band to play it after. But if you drill in the band and you need to drill in half of the band will never be as tight as you want it to be, because there are people who is not part of the drill.
Well, that's interesting that you, which brings us to another question. So if people are not part of the drilling process, how would they be allowed to be part of the competition?
Well, in some bands who want numbers, they allow it. In bands who have numbers and who could drop one or two people or three people, you will understand. You see, the thing about how we operate, if you're in Rome, you do what the Romans do. So when you come to a band that you have a structure, you have to fall into the structure. When you go to a band where anything goes, practice going on, you could be sitting down by the driller drilling, and you don't think that is what them doing. So if you don't practice, you can't play. And a lot of bands are like that. You have to practice with the band to play.
And
Yeah.
and who actually makes the decision ultimately about which player is going to play? Is it the drill master or the band captain or the arranger, or it's a whole team of people that decide together, or the section leader?
The section leaders is the person who has that responsibility. The section leader have that responsibility. If you get dropped, the section leader here and you get dropped and you want to create an argument saying that, but I know the music, then the drill master will call on you to see what's going on. Will take note in the drill. And then if you want to carry it further, but the section leader is the ultimate person to decide, because they are the person who drill that section. They are responsible for that section. They are responsible. Because if they put somebody to play and the driller drilling and realize that person in the music, why this person playing? This person know the music and not playing the music. So, but the section leader, they are the person who are responsible. That responsibility start with the section leader.
Are there ever contentious arguments about why I didn't get selected to play?
Well, not about the playing though, because at most time, because once you work and something I will always do, I reward effort. So you might have somebody who might not be as tight as you want them to be, especially a young person, but they're putting in the work they're there, and what they're doing is not going to hamper the band in no way, because you take your time with them to reward that. But where they have the tension is who played in the front.
Really?
That's what the tension this be. That's what the tension this be. The front line. Who playing ahead of the band on that long line. That's where the tensions has come from in steel band. Who played in the front. And then when they get to play in the front, what they have to explain to them is it's very important to have strong players in the rack, especially for the rhythm section and whatnot. But it has some tension with who play in the front. A lot of bands I worked with before, that have been the number one tension as opposed to somebody getting dropped.
Right. Very interesting.
Tell us something about your rhythm section. How you, as a drill master, how do you feel about your rhythm section carrying the band in terms of, there's some arrangers. I was once told that there was that Jit liked, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jit liked the drive with the rhythm section to be flowing. he wasn't a fan of a man holding a piece of iron in the air and beating it from on top here. What is your philosophy in terms of the rhythm section and that ability to carry the band? Because they often say that iron is an important part of a steel orchestra. To get that rhythm section in a flow and where you want it to be could impact on the sound of the band.
Well, this may not necessarily be supernovas. In the answer may not necessarily linked to supernovas. I have worked with a number of steel bands in Trinidad and Tobago for panorama festivals and different things. Rhythm section is important. The problem with the rhythm section is how the rhythm people see themselves as being a part of the orchestra. Especially now in this present day, you have a lot of rhythm sections. People who play iron, congas, drum set, tumbalitas, and the rhythm section in front of a party or in a party and they play in rhythm. So when you bring them to a steel band now, you have to change the way how they do things, right? To let them understand you are now part of the orchestra. You are accompanying what is happening. You are actually accompanying the music here now. Your job is to enhance what is happening with the instrument. You mentioned JIT. I think JIT taught us a lot back then on how to actually use the rhythm section with the orchestra to lift. So all of us used to like our Renegades rhythm section with our song. Soca, bands on the tumbalitas, the percussionists, especially when he go up and do his bongo solo. It was with taste, right? It was with taste. It was the sprinkle of salt to put taste to it here. Now we have it a little more overdone on the bongos in the modern day, especially the single pan and whatnot. So, but a lot of rhythm players, especially Iron Men, let me go to the problem section. They don't like to practice with the band. So they see themselves as just coming in and jumping behind the iron and starting. So it's even difficult to put stops. If you listen to a lot of Panorama song, you was also a judge, doctor. How many times you hear a stop an Iron Man play to the stop? Even at the end of the song, the Iron Man missed the phrase and all these different things because now you want them to be a part, and because they don't know the song, because they're comfortable on driving straight down the highway with no traffic light, they just hold the steering wheel and mash gas. They're not being mindful of little corners and the little humps they will have in the road. So I just tell them they're going to get in an accident. They need to be mindful of what's happening with the music. They are part of the music. They are accompanying the orchestra. So they have to be in the music, not above the music.
On that topic there, I'm one of the guys who I do a lot of announcing for Pancho Bago, and I follow the musical aspect of TNT's culture. I've realized that the congas now are more like tassa in most of the sounds that we get at semis and preliminaries and final night and thing. And to me, it has replaced the olden days when the same Iron Men would have understood their role. Like Corey for Hatters back in the days, he understood his role as an Iron Man in Hatters, and he knew exactly when to like solo. And now we are hearing like an overkill of congas, especially by using sticks and not the fingers.
But it's more the bongos, bro. More the bongos.
The bongos, yeah.
The bongo drum as opposed to thing. And yeah, and they start to use this flexi stick on it also.
Yeah.
That is give it, and then they're changing the skin, they're pulling it higher. And again, it comes from the people who play in the rhythm sections. Not a rhythm section, not part of the steel orchestra rhythm section. The rhythm, and I don't want to say, okay, like what Lafontaine rhythm section hard going or half going. A lot of rhythm sections do that. And then when they go to play with steel band, they don't understand. And no Lafontaine rhythm section fellas, they understand how to play with Lafontaine rhythm section and how to also play in a steel band. The same thing we say for drummers. The drummers in the steel band, there are drummers in the steel band world who play with brass, right? And there are drummers who learn to drum, and they may learn to drum by listening to brass. But they can't mix the two. There are few of them who could do it the correct way. To play with a steel band and to play with a brass band is two totally different styles. And there are some of them who understand that perfectly, and there are some of them who just sit on the drum set and decide they play.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Dr. Tanyok, I'm giving you the last word. We have less than a minute.
I don't have anything else I wanted to ask, but I thought this last point about the rhythm section was very interesting. Thank you for sharing those thoughts.
Yeah.
Mr. Jackson, thank you so much for making yourself available to us. We wish you and Supernovas the very best moving forward, and we look forward to hearing from you all through the season. Thank you again, and thank you for your warmth and your frankness.
Thank you. That was a nice song you started the program with at 4 o'clock.
Well, thank you, sir,
for meeting with us.
Yes. Thank you, Fareed. Thank you, Dr. Tanyuk. And of course, Ben. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Blessings, David. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Be safe on your journey home, and blessings to the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk, where we're talking Pan in the build-up to Panorama 2024. Come home to the rhythms of steel. Love it, feel it, share it.